So Civilization 7 finally released yesterday, and I have been having an absolute blast. However, it did release to mostly negative reviews on Steam, and it is now to mixed reviews, and Firaxis Games has already released a comment on what is going on. So they said over there that their number one priority right now is looking into UI improvements, which I would say is good because that is what everyone is complaining about it. Everyone's saying the UI is terrible. Anyways, they said that they've heard us loud and clear and they will take some time to digest the feedback back about the UI, probably figuring out what they need to prioritize the most with the UI. They said that they're already looking into making the UI more intuitive and improving map readability, which I would say is really important as currently the map, especially when you get into the later ages, is extremely hard to read. It can be so hard to tell what different tiles are, and mousing over the hexes honestly isn't even that useful because it doesn't give you that much information on each hex. And there's nothing to like differentiate, for example, what yields I'm getting from a hex, and then whether there's like an enemy unit on that hex as well. The UI is just terrible. Yeah, I definitely had big issues with map readability, especially in the later ages when cities are getting bigger. They definitely need to work on polishing. They said that they are, but there's a lot of UI elements that are really rough, especially with like the tech tree. The lines just aren't straight. It definitely looks like an intern did it. And then they said they'll have more details coming soon. So personally, I still enjoy the game, even despite the shit UI. I played through an entire game almost straight, like 8 hours straight. Had a ton of fun, but I do think that it needs a ton of work. And it's completely unacceptable for a game that is this expensive, $130 for the top version to release in this state. It's sort of become the norm, but it just sucks that that is how it works nowadays. I do think that everything, all the issues are fixable, but like, come on, they've been working on it for a long time. The UI shouldn't be in that shitty of a state. And the lack of polish really, really is severe. It's just really bad UI, but the game is fun. Especially the merchant UI, terrible. I'll probably make a video just covering how to use merchants because the number of people who couldn't figure it out, including me, I had to ask in the Discord, was staggering. And then also just like extra info not popping up when you mouse over things. There's no like hold alt to see more info. A lot of like extra info is just missing from the game. So then they said that their number two priority is implementing community requested features, and there are a lot of these. They will share the exact timing at a later date for when they're releasing stuff, but they said that they're working on adding teams to multiplayer games. I don't know how that's not included in the main release. That seems a little bit, sort of an oversight, but I guess they thought that teams isn't important for multiplayer. I know that like when I play multiplayer games, I like playing with other people on my team. I mean, I like playing against them too, but come on. And then they're working on allowing full player counts in multiplayer as well. Again, ridiculous, but that's okay. Moving on from there, they said allowing you to pick starting and ending age for single and double age games. That sounds great. I hope they add that quickly. Being able to just play a single age, for example, I personally enjoy Antiquity the most. Just it's more simple. It allows me to make more strategic decisions, and each turn doesn't last a lifetime. So that'll be good. It'll be fun to just be able to, pick a single age and just play through that, especially for a shorter game that doesn't take like, 6 or 4 or however many hours at a time. They're working on providing a wider variety of map types. Right now, the map types are this is important because the map types like don't feel very different. They're all relatively boring and they all sort of feel the same. Like there's continents and then continents plus, which just has like a couple like islands in between the continents, and then there's archipelago, which is like a bunch of islands. But again, all the maps feel boring. It's nothing like, I don't know what it is, but the maps just don't feel great right now. I think they need to take a look at their like map generation code just from the number of games that I've played. So they definitely need to work on providing a wider variety of map types, and they need to work on, providing larger maps because right now the biggest map you can play on is standard. There are a couple of mods working on that. However, from what I've heard, you can load into the game, but it'll like crash or not all the players will load in. So there's definitely some bugs with the bigger maps right now. So then they are working on enabling city and religion names to be customized. I don't know how that's not in the game at release. I mean, I guess they're probably just rushed, but like, it's just like, I mean, at least from what I know about coding, it's to change like a city name, it would just be like changing a single variable. Like you could have a global variable for the city and then change it. So I'm not sure why that's not in release, but I guess it's not. And then, they're working on renaming religion names, which I think you can create your own religion. I just went with one of the pre-made ones, so I'm pretty sure you can already make your own religion, but maybe you can like rename some of the already pre-made religions. I don't know. So moving on from there, they're also working on adding Hotseat multiplayer. This is probably less important in the modern age, just because I think most people play on their own computer. But when I was growing up, I played a bunch of Hotseat with my dad, so I can definitely understand, wanting this as a feature in the game. I would just say that the other stuff is probably more important, at least at first. So, moving on from the community requested features, their number third priority is patch 1.1.0, which is deploying in March. And they said that this will include fixes and adjustments. So who knows what that is? Quality of life UI, AI balance and improvement. So speaking about the AI feels pretty solid in this game. It's fun to play against. I love the implementation of the city states over the barbarians. Absolutely, so much better than what Civ 6 has. It's really cool to have relationships with the city states or choose to just attack them and they get that 50 science or whatever by dispersing them. And then later in the game, when you get to like the exploration age, having the random city states pop up again and raid you, it keeps you on your toes and it makes the game interesting. I very much appreciate that. And they'll send over warriors if one of your towns doesn't have people in it, which again, I like that dynamic sort of gameplay with the AI. So I think the AI is pretty solid. So I'm glad to see that they're improving it. But honestly, I'm not complaining about it too much. It's definitely not like crazy hard, but yeah. So moving on from there, they're adding adjustments to diplomacy and crises. I think the diplomacy and crises felt pretty good. I'm sure that it does need adjustment, but I don't have any specific complaints about it right now. I do think that the diplomacy sort of feels a bit hands off. Like you sort of just, you spend your diplomacy currency, you let the things right out. But like there's no, at least I didn't get any pop-ups of like when my espionage like worked, stuff like that. So maybe they could add a little bit to the diplomacy. And then they have additional bug fixes in patch 1.1.0. So that's all for that patch. Hopefully it fixes a lot of the issues, though I bet it'll take a number of patches to fix all of the issues. Then they also said that they will support Civ 7 for years to come, and that if you have feedback, you should share it via the Steam discussion forums and the official Discord server. Yes, there is now an official Civilization Discord. When I joined it, there was only like 600 people in it. So, but there's probably thousands of people in it now. But yeah, you should be able to get into it just directly from the game. And yeah, it looks to be pretty well put together. And then I'm sure that there's somewhere in there where you can give your feedback. So moving on from there, some fixes that I would like to see that they didn't necessarily mention. I hope that they add more pop-up windows when mousing over hexes to see adjacency bonuses. Etc. There's just not a lot of information when you mouse over hexes, and it's not clear what information pertains to what. Like I said, it can be hard to, like, you can see an enemy there, but it takes a while to see the text of the enemy because it just blends in with like the yield bonuses and all of that. I think the explanations in the Civilopedia or whatever it's called are pretty mid. They don't really go into detail. It looks like they were just thrown together in 5 minutes for each one. I think they could definitely be done much better. Go more in depth, explain how it works. Explain how the different game systems works. I had a couple of questions that just were not answered, and I had to go Google them. Luckily, some random journals had info about them already, but still, I think the Civilopedia could use some work. Seeing where city yields come from, you can look at the city, but the breakdown for for where you get your different resources is not great. They could definitely work on that. Sources of negative happiness. It can be really hard to see where you're getting negative happiness from. Positive happiness, it does tell you pretty clearly, but that's something that they could work on. Again, with the pop-ups, they could use nested tool pop-ups that link to the Civilopedia. I had to, actually search in it quite a bit, and being able to just click on something and have it go to the relevant article would be extremely nice. And then, as I said earlier, larger maps and support for larger maps, as again, they tend to crash right now because they've been modded in. Basically, they're in the game files, and some modders have found a way to enable them, but they don't really load correctly right now from what I've heard. I haven't personally tried it though. Then quick movement and quick combat is not currently in the game. I definitely heard some multiplayer people complaining about that the other day. I did actually have a crash. I won my first game of Civilization 7 with a combat victory in the modern age, and my game crashed as soon as I won. So that was a little bit weird. Luckily, it saved my progress, and I didn't have to, replay the last 20 turns. But it definitely crashed. So, but let me say, the nuke is fun. So then moving on from there, the merchant UI is absolutely abysmal. I could not figure out how to use it. And yeah, I'll be making a video on that. So that definitely needs to be fixed like ASAP. It's like the number one UI element that I've seen the most comments about is the merchant UI. And then, as I said earlier, the tech tree also needs a UI overhaul. So anyways, that is what Firaxis said and some fixes I personally would like to see. I think that the game is a ton of fun. It definitely has that, just one more turn mentality when playing it, and it sucked me in when I started playing it. So I've been having a ton of fun. I'll have a review coming out later this week, and I'll, make a number of guides and stuff. So if you want to catch those, feel free to subscribe and like this video, as that would help me out. And then I'll have those videos once I make them linked at the end of this video. So anyways, if you made it this far, thank you so much for listening to me ramble. I hope that y'all have a wonderful day, and yeah, thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one, y'all.